couple copies of Ishkana Graph Widow, a new mythic that has a lot of potential in these kind of strategies. This is basically a green-black attrition deck. If you harken back to decks like the Rock, this is kind of in a similar space. I'm interested to see what the matchup is here against Blue-Red Eldrazi, a deck that's much more powerful, goes way over the top, and see if McDuffie's 2-for-1 and little accruing of value over time type of plays can hang with someone casting cards like Ulamog and Chandra.
Round number way here from Columbus is underway. For Kenney, he's going to start off with a Shivan Reef into a Majoring Network, so he's looking to build. And Korey, very well-versed Magic player. If you see a Majoring Network on turn number 2, you almost kind of know what your opponent's up to. Now, we're going to see a Clash of Wills take care of that Grim Flayer. Clash of Wills we know. Grim Flayer some people may not, so we will take a look at that powerful card. This is a real enabler for this deck.
Yes, if there's any question with this card, it's the size on turn 2. You have a 2/2 in a format chock full of high-quality 2/3s, and that might ultimately doom this card. But if you're playing a strategy like Green-Black Delirium, this is an incredible enabler.
Now, Mike's third land is a Gyre-Reach Sanitarium. We might see some activations of that. We may not. We'll find out soon enough. Now, for Korey's side, Hissing Quagmires, of course, that green-black creature land, and now Forest. Now, one thing we know about Korey, he is very methodical in his ways when he does play games. We even saw him playing very slowly when that opened with a mono-red deck. But once he does figure out the right line of play, you best believe he's going to make it quickly. So here's a Llanowar Waste. And now to be a Deathmist Raptor. Talk about a card that really fell off previously.
Though I think it could be poised for a return if Green-Black Delirium is a viable strategy. Deathmist Raptor fits in very nicely to an attrition-based deck that also is putting cards in its graveyard for free.
However, Kenney does have the perfect answer to that card. It was a copy of Spell Shrivel. Korey couldn't pay the 4, so that means that Deathmist Raptor is exactly where it doesn't want to be, which is in exile. So now we go to Kenney's next turn. Let's see what we're going to have here. It's going to be a Hedron Archive for Mike, and he's simply going to pass the turn back. So everything's working pretty well here for the Blue-Red Eldrazi player.
Yeah, he's kept McDuffie off balance here. McDuffie has nothing going on in terms of getting his graveyard chalked up, and Kenney is now accelerating his mana as well.
Yeah, one of the things we have to look for when we're watching Korey or anyone playing Delirium this weekend is, okay, let's take a look at the graveyard. What's going on down there? I got a Grim Flayer. That's a creature. That's one type. That's it so far. You know, he's going to have cards like Evolving Wilds in his deck to be able to put a land down there. We're going to see some enchantments, things of that nature. Here's another creature for right now, though. It is a copy of Nissa, Vastwood Seer. So the trigger will allow Korey to search for a forest. He will grab one. And we'll see if that'll be his land for the turn or not.
The question that I have about these Green-Black Delirium strategies is how many inefficient cards are you going to play just to enable the deck? You know, McDuffie, for example, is playing with Deadweight. Deadweight's a fine removal spell. Maybe not the ideal one. Maybe you wouldn't naturally play 4 copies, but it is such a powerful Delirium enabler that he's playing the 4. I think Crop Soil is really the only card in McDuffie's deck where he is stretching to try to enable Delirium. The rest of the cards you can identify as just being individually powerful cards.
Now here's a Drowner of Hope from Kenney. Used to seeing this one in Modern in the very powerful Eldrazi decks. Don't see it a ton in Standard, but it is here along with 2 Scions that went into the battlefield. So all of a sudden, Kenney has 7 power on the battlefield, and we're heading back McDuffie's way. McDuffie will sacrifice the Evolving Wilds. Now we got 2 types in the graveyard for Delirium as he searches up a Swamp.
I'm a big fan of the 1 copy of Gyre-Reach Sanitarium in the Blue-Red Eldrazi deck here. It is legendary, so you can play too many copies of them, of course. But the Blue-Red Eldrazi deck, in my experience, passes the turn a lot without really doing anything, especially on the turns where it's building up towards one of its big plays. So being able to improve its hand, find its high-impact plays, I think this is a very solid one-up for the deck.
Deathmist Raptor, the draw here for Korey McDuffie. As we head to his 5th turn of the game. And land drops haven't been a problem for Korey. It's really just kind of getting things rocking and rolling, and he's a little bit behind right now.
And this is my concern of the matchup here. Kenney's now approaching a position where he can cast any of his large plays, and even though McDuffie's deck is really set up to get a 2-for-1 here, a 2-for-1 there, I don't know if it can hang with Kenney's top end. I also think McDuffie may lack a removal spell in his main deck that can take care of Drowner of Hope. He's looking at, I'm looking at removal spells here of Deadweight and Grasp of Darkness. So 5 toughness might be this critical flashpoint for him.
Well, if he's going to have difficulty with that, I think he's going to have some difficulty with Elder Deep Fiend as well.
Oh yeah. There's a, it gets a lot bigger than 5.
Yeah,
there's.
It's not going to be easy for Korey.
I think we go up to 10, right? we go all the way up.
Yeah. Korey's got land number 5. Let's see what spell he wants to play. Obviously, he has quite a few options. That's why he's thinking things through. And he's going to go, looks like with Deathmist Raptor, the card he drew for this turn, so there's that. And all he can do is pass the turn back. What's the mana available there in a Swamp and a Hissing Quagmire? So now we're going to head back Mike Kenney's way. Keep in mind, Kenney last turn did miss his land drop, so that means he has all spells outside of whatever this draw step was. And oddly enough, with how this game has played out so far and the texture of this game, he hasn't actually had the opportunity to activate his Majoring Network and start putting counters there. Now, his land for the turn was another copy of Majoring Network. It looks like he's got a spell to play, and it's going to be, I believe, a Spatial Contortion to take care of that card. And now here come the beatdowns. So in for 5, and now a passing of the turn.
But if the game slows down here, Kenney is really well positioned because of how much value he's going to be able to accrue from his lands. The Majoring Networks will help facilitate any large play that he draws, and the Gyre Reach Sanitarium means that he can blow through his, Clash of Wills or lands that he doesn't want on the hunt for something like Ulamog.
One card you will not find in Kenney's deck, unfortunately, if you're a fan of the game, is Emrakul. Not hanging out here. He's going all the way up to Ulamog, but we're not going to find Emrakul the Promised End just yet. McDuffie's going to play a Morph. And Kenney has a Spell Shrivel again, taking care of another Death Mist Raptor. Again, Exile is not where Korey wants those Death Mist Raptors to be. You'll see Kenney charge up that Majoring Network. We'll get a big die on there for our viewers at home. Make sure you can see how many counters are on there. There we are. And now Mike's going to come in with the Drowner yet again. Korey is going to block. Now Mike only with one card in hand right now, it appears, so kind of out of gas outside of the Drowner and the Scions right now.
But he's got a lot of mana to work with. He still has the Hedron Archive if he wants to draw some cards. And he can start spinning the Gyre Reach Sanitarium to find his big plays.
Now here's a Grasp of Darkness before damage. However, another copy of Spatial Contortion is going to make this rather useless. So Spatial Contortion takes care of Nissa in response to the Grasp, which means the Grasp just turns the Drowner into a 1-1, but not being dealt any damage, so the Drowner is still out there. We head back Korey's way. Picked up another copy of Nissa for the turn. You see him kind of fan out the graveyard a little bit here. Might be checking 1 for Delirium and 2 if there's anything to get back with Den Protector.
Yep.
Now, by my count, we got 3 of 4 for Delirium. We got a land and Evolving Wilds. Got a bunch of creatures down there because Kenney just keeps killing them all. And then a Grasp of Darkness last turn. So now Korey just needs one more type to be able to enable Delirium. But again, not a lot going on in Korey's hand, at least at this stage it feels like. However, here's a Nissa. That's going to resolve. Search up the forest. And it looks like he'll play the forest.
So McDuffie's removal here, I think he's got Grasp of Darkness, he's got Deadweight. Makes a lot of sense. 2 of the most efficient removal spells in black in the format, plus Deadweight is a particularly good Delirium enabler. So that all makes sense. Not really well set up for this matchup, and not really well set up for Elder Deep Fiend in general. His deck plays largely on the main phase and can't efficiently get it off the battlefield game 1. Maybe McDuffie is just not anticipating a lot of copies of that card this weekend. Maybe he's willing to incur that risk, but that card seems like a large vulnerability, and if Kenney can find it now, it's going to be Time Walk plus a creature that McDuffie can't really remove.
You saw Kenney activate the Hedron Archive at the end of turn to draw 2 cards, so he's got a little bit less mana to work with. Land for the turn was a Spawning Pool, and now here comes the Drowner again. Will McDuffie chump block again? You saw him try to chump block plus Grasp last turn. Looks like he's going to take the 5 this turn, fall down to 10. And now Kenney will just pass the turn. This is kind of what you spoke to right at the top. Once Kenney gets himself in this position where he's resolved a large threat and kind of threatening other large threats, this is where life is really tough for McDuffie.
Yeah, and that one copy of Gyre Reach Sanitarium, I know I've spoken about it a lot. I know it hasn't been activated yet, but it's a really powerful weapon for Kenney if this game happens to drag out.
Korey leans up in his chair a little bit. You can see he maybe has found something that he likes. Looks like Evolving Wilds. Going to put the trigger on here for Nissa. Looks like another Spatial Contortion. Now Korey, with how Evolving Wilds works, he can sacrifice the Wilds in response to this Spatial Contortion, which he's going to do, which is going to trigger Nissa again to transform into a Planeswalker.
Right, remember Nissa says, when you 7th land enters the battlefield, so it triggers. And then Evolving Wilds can create another one of those triggers in response to a removal spell.
Yep.
Not sure if Kenney is familiar with that interaction or was just trying to force the issue there, but in any case, McDuffie gets to flip the Nissa in spite of the removal spell.
There's Nissa. Sage Animist. Now, Korey certainly needs some help, so this is certainly one step in his favor. Maybe a bit of a misstep there from Mike. And Korey has been kind of thumbing through his graveyard a little bit this game. Makes you wonder if he does have Den Protector, if he's just trying to figure out how can I actually get myself to Delirium because I'm not there yet. Looks like he does have a copy of Ishkana in hand. I certainly want to see that card in action because there's been a lot of hype built around that card.
And that's a card where if McDuffie can enable the Delirium here, he at least gets a lot of chump blocking. He gets some time. I don't know long term if he can really solve the problems that Kenny's going to be presenting, but Ishkana is at least a step to stabilizing the game.
Liliana, the last hope, was the reveal to Nissa because those two Planeswalkers work together now. They're a team in Eldritch Moon. So if we had to call a flavor judge, we're doing okay.
Okay.
We're doing okay on the flavor judge ruling. Now here is Liliana.
You've become quite the little flavor expert over the last couple weeks and months.
There's been some pretty good stories going on. Okay. Liliana is here. It's our first time we get to see this in action, but I've got a good feeling it won't be our last. This is a heck of a Magic card right here.
Yep. Very powerful for Delirium strategies. There are a lot of powerful 1 toughness creatures that have been printed in the new set. And then the Spirits deck, if it exists, is all about 1 toughness. I think we're going to see a lot of copies of Liliana across a variety of strategies this weekend.
Now here's what's interesting. You see Korey minus Liliana. Mill 2 cards, return Deathmist Raptor. Okay, cool. Get that back. Now he's going to cast it. But one of the things now, if you're Mike, is you're almost kind of incentivized to want to kill Liliana since it's so low. But then that's a 4th card in the graveyard for Delirium.
Yeah.
So
it's a tough squeeze.
Yeah, how does Mike want to actually play this? His land for the turn, Wandering Fumarole. Plays that one right away. He's tapping a bunch of mana. What do we got here? Gonna remove some counters from the uh-oh. Is this Ulamog? It is Ulamog.
I like this way of dealing with Liliana and Deathmist Raptor. If I had to pick a way,
you would be okay with this one?
Yeah, I think Ulamog's fine here.
Okay.
It kills or exiles McDuffie's 2 best cards and then kills him next turn. So I like this line a lot.
Okay. I know you've been away from the booth for a while.
Right,
so.
yeah, it's, I'm still adjusting, settling into some of the interactions here. I've seen this one before. This one's still good.
Yeah, it's still a pretty tough one to beat. So there's Ulamog, the Ceaseless Hunger. It's going to exile some permanents. And then it's going to resolve, of course. Korey, no counterspell in his green-black Delirium deck. No mana to play one even if he did. Now Liliana's going to bite the dust from the Drowner. And, yeah, it's Mike's turn.
Okay.
That's Mike's turn. Not bad. See if Korey can top it, which will be pretty tough to do.
Ishkana's not, that's a lot of numbers.
That is a lot of good cards. That's a lot of good cards. Just so that everyone at home is aware, experiencing a bit of a technical difficulty. So
We're still streaming. But
we are still streaming live, but we don't have a good view of the game right now. So as soon as we are able to fix this, we certainly will for you guys. And now it appears as though we're back. The magic of live television. Had a little bit of technical difficulty there, so our apologies at home. But it looks like the problem is fixed. And as we tune back into the game, Ishkana is here.
All right, sweet. Another
there you go.
Sweet Delirium output. Fortunately, Ulamog is indestructible and exiles.
Oh, if you're just going to bring up the details.
Right.
All right, here comes Ulamog.
I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade here.
I think was that I want to show off the Ishkana and then you can see what was that?
I don't know. Play on. If Kenney attacks and announces the trigger, I'm sure McDuffie doesn't want to reveal his deck at that point.
Okay.
He knows he's done. He can't beat an Ulamog. So
okay, all right.
At least make Kenney go through the motions.
All right. Fair
if he doesn't attack, then you can hang back. You got your spiders. You're activating his Ishkana for 4 damage a turn. Who knows? Anyone's game. But once he once he announces the trigger, go on to the next one.
All right, Mike Kenney's going to win game number 1 here over Korey McDuffie. Blue-red Eldrazi up a game here over green-black Delirium. Do want to apologize for that brief technical difficulty that we did have. But we are back now. Looks like everything is okay. So that means we get to take a look at the sideboards here for each player and see what they're working with. And we will start with Korey McDuffie, who has 2 Kalidas Trader. I got myself an Infinite Obliteration. That could be good here. 2 Tireless Tracker, 3 Aerial Volley, 2 Transgress the Mind, 2 Duress, 2 Languish, and an Ultimate Price.
Some significant upgrades here for McDuffie. The 2 copies of Duress and 2 copies of Transgress the Mind here are excellent. I think the 1 copy of Infinite Obliteration is excellent. It has to be for Eldrazi strategies, primarily. And the 2 copies of Tireless Tracker, in a matchup where you expect that, Kenny's not going to be playing that much removal spells, Tireless Tracker has a way of accruing a lot of value and drawing a bunch of cards, getting very large. I think that should come in as well.
Another thing, on the other side of things, excuse me, here from Mike Kenney, I'm taking a look at 2 Matter Reshapers, 2 Thought-Knots here, 2 Roast, 2 Rending Volley, a Nahiri's Wrath, that's a new one, along with 2 Negates, a Summary Dismissal, 2 Fevered Visions, and a Jace Unraveler Secret. So a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
Yeah, I like the smaller Eldrazi cards as a way of, exiling some cards, blocking early on in the game. Thought-Knot Seer is larger than many of the creatures that McDuffie brings to the battlefield, so I like the Matter Reshaper Thought-Knot Seer setup here. And I think the 1 copy of Jace Unraveler of Secrets is fine for this matchup too. McDuffie's deck is not that efficient at attacking, and so Jace has the possibility of coming down on an empty battlefield and drawing a bunch of cards.
Still think that Mike is pretty favored here?
I do. McDuffie does get some upgrades in the matchup, and having some discard spells and 1 copy of Infinite Obliteration is a big deal, but it's still the same deal. He still has the same problem. He doesn't kill very quickly, and he doesn't answer Kenney's top end efficiently. And Eldrazi typically capitalizes on mid-range strategies that have those characteristics.
Well, my friend, this is our favorite part of the show.
The weekly sale.
The weekly sale, everybody. StarCityGames.com weekly sale. It ends Monday at 10:59 a.m. We'll have a new one for you at 11 a.m. on Monday, but you can save on select supplies like dice bags, boxes, all that stuff. And I know you love to browse the weekly sale.
I'm a hawk when it comes to the Star Sea Games weekly sale. This week, as Cedric mentioned, supplies, deck boxes, sleeves, dice bags, dice, etc., etc. Every Monday, 11 o'clock Eastern time, the sale ends, new sale goes up, so make sure you go back to the website. Every Monday, 11 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, check out the new sale.
Let's watch game number 2 here in just a moment between Mike Kenney and Korey McDuffie. Like I said, 2 former SCG Tour Open champions doing battle here in round number 1, so that's pretty awesome. Get to watch basically 1 brand new deck, 1 deck that's somewhat established and potentially got better. Now, this is not a deck that I would expect to actually see Elder Deep Fiend end, but maybe this card can go in more decks than we think.
Well, Kenney can just cast it au natural. He doesn't have to do much emerging. His deck is naturally suited to get to 7, 8, 9 mana and beyond. So he is not trying to do the whole Eldrazi Sky Spawner and cast this way ahead of curve and tempo you out of the game, but it's still a very powerful threat, and it's particularly well suited for this kind of matchup where McDuffie does not kill it efficiently, and he plays mostly on his main phase. So that card coming in, tapping Deathmist Raptor in 3 lands, let's say on McDuffie's upkeep, that's a really hard play for McDuffie's deck to beat.
What's interesting about Korey's deck is, and you kind of alluded to this right at the beginning, you have to build your deck a certain kind of way because of what you're trying to accomplish with the deck. Delirium, as a mechanic, forces you to build your deck a specific kind of way. So he's got certain removal spells in his deck, which are nice. You mentioned Dead Weight, mentioned Grasp of Darkness, and Leonic and Play's removal spell, but you're not going to find anything like Murder here or Ruinous Path. Any of that stuff, really. So as a result, he's really soft to really big creatures.
Yeah, and I was expecting to see some of that cleaned up in the sideboard with cards you mentioned like Murder, just got reprinted, or Ruinous Path. Murder being a particularly good answer to Elder Deep Fiend, either of those cards being pretty solid in general, but McDuffie, I guess, just choosing to ignore or try to overpower those kind of cards this weekend rather than remove them from the battlefield.
Well, here's a Hissing Quagmire to start here for Korey. Both players are going to keep 7. Mike with just an island. For Korey, it's a Forest, and now it's a Hangerback Walker for 1. Can't forget about old Hangerback. That one's not going anywhere. Let's see what Kenney has here.
Very well-suited card for an attrition-based strategy. Also happens to be an artifact, so it is a better-than-average Delirium Enabler.
So, technically 2 types in the graveyard.
Yeah.
Artifact and creature. McDuffie will get a Thopter, given the spatial contortion that Kenney has just cast on that Hangerback Walker. Doesn't want that thing to grow out of control. So here comes the Thopter. Kenney will take 1. He'll fall down to 19. A Swamp here for McDuffie, and now a Tireless Tracker, a card we had a feeling would come in from the sideboard.
Yeah, I think this is a much more aggressive threat, much better suited to the matchup than things like Deathmist Raptor.
Kozilek's Return.
Okay, well, that looks really bad now. I would rather have a 3 toughness threat specifically against Kozilek's Return.
Now, that's a card, all kidding aside, I think is going to see a huge uptick in play.
Oh, it plays so well with Elder Deep Fiend that there's no way that doesn't come up.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that card. Now, Hissing Quagmire is 1. That's the land for Korey. What's the spell? Well, the spell is Crop Sigil, which is a new one. Now, here's a Matter Reshaper there for Kenney, but no 4th land. Now, Crop Sigil, this is an interesting one. You got 1 green mana, it's an enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, you may put the top card of your library into your graveyard. And that's, keep in mind, that's a you may, you don't have to. And then when you have Delirium, as Grasp of Darkness is going to take care of Matter Reshaper, we'll get a trigger here. It's an island, so Kenney will find a land. 2 and a green, sacrifice the Crop Sigil, return up to 1 target creature card and up to 1 target land card from your graveyard to your hand, but you can only activate this if you have Delirium.
So this card is a mixture of Delirium Enabler and Delirium Payoff. There was a card in the previous set, I believe Autumn Veil, that was kind of playing in the same space.
Ish.
I think this card is a lot more pointed towards constructed than that one was.
And there's another Crop Sigil, and Korey will just pass the turn back. Now, you take a look at Korey's graveyard. We got an artifact and a creature in Hangerback Walker. We got an instant in Grasp of Darkness and a sorcery in Traverse the Uvenwald. So Delirium is here. This is what we wanted to see. The question is, what can he actually do with this?
And does it matter in time? That to me is the big question in the matchup here. Even if he gets a Tireless Tracker back and gets a clue, makes it a 4/3, draws a card, and makes those kind of exchanges, in the long term, that's not better than Ulamog.
You saw Kenney on his turn play a Hedron Archive, a Highland Lake, and simply pass the turn back. Now, Korey's got some thinking to do because he can activate that Crop Sigil if he wants to. Maybe get a little something back from the graveyard, and it looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. So, Tireless Tracker, come on back, still has Delirium. Now he's going to activate the Sigil. Evolving Wilds goes to the graveyard. He'll draw a copy of Evolving Wilds.
And Evolving Wilds is not a bad pickup here for McDuffie to put in his graveyard, as now the Crop Sigil has a land to get back.
Absolutely. And Evolving Wilds not a bad draw step because Tireless Tracker that he got back. So Tireless Tracker is going to come down, play the Evolving Wilds, get a clue, can sacrifice the Wilds right now, get another clue, but the Tracker is going to die to a Spatial Contortion yet again. So he's not going to get that second clue. He will get the land, however. Get a swamp, enters the battlefield tapped, of course. Now we're going to head back Kenney's way. Kenney, it almost feels like, has had the right answer at the right time for everything.
And it's been so hard for McDuffie to get any traction in these games. Even when he's getting the Delirium stuff going, it's just so slow and ponderous.
And as much fun as it has been to watch Korey kind of get his engines online, it's almost like Mike is just saying, well, you do all your cute little stuff. I'm going to beat you over the head with 3 powerful cards like Ulamog and now Chandra, and we'll see if you can beat my powerful stuff.
And I don't know if McDuffie can really get out of this card at this stage of the game. He does not have any explicit Planeswalker removal. He doesn't have any creatures that are large enough.
And this is not an easy card for him to beat. Now, Chandra, it plussed, I believe, dealt 6 with the 2 tokens. So put Korey down to 14. And now we head back Korey's way. But this is bad news.
McDuffie's deck is just not meant to fight this kind of fight.
Yeah.
He's trying to out-attrition creature decks, and I think his deck is well set to do this. But something that goes this far over the top, I don't think he's got a great game plan here.
Well, here's Ishkana again. It's going to bring 3 spiders along with it because of Delirium. So one thing, if you want to take away positives from Korey's deck, it looks as though turning on Ishkana, not particularly difficult to do.
Yep, this is a great payoff if you can regularly get to Delirium by turn 5. Card's at a very high power level.
See what Mike wants to do here with Chandra. He's going to -2, take care of the little spiders, leave the big one there. The follow-up. Mike going to sift through his mana. That's a Drowner. It's going to bring along a couple of Scions. Now, keep in mind, Mike does actually have that copy of Kozilek's Return in the graveyard. Doesn't look like he's going to use it on this go-around. Maybe save it for a little bit something bigger. Make sure I'm identifying Kozilek's Return correctly here on how it does come back. 7 or greater. Yep. My apologies.
So it doesn't work with Drowner, but it does
Correct.
work very well with Elder Deep Fiend.
Correct. And, of course, Ulamog.
And Ulamog.
Yes.
But we knew about that already.
Yeah, we already know about that. A Duress. Take care of another Spatial Contortion.
And now Kenney can just pivot and damage race. He's got the Drowner, plus the Scions, plus the Chandra in play.
Yep. He can just say, sack a Scion, tap your Ishkana.
Yep.
Beat you down that way.
Get 6 off the Chandra, 5 off the Drowner.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what he's going to do. You see him sacrifice a Scion right there. He has to be kind of cognizant about the Hissing Quagmire, I would say. Don't want to lose your creature to a Death Touch land. But really outside of that, it feels like Mike Kenney's in the driver's seat here. Let's see what Korey is setting up, if anything. Sacrificing... What is going on here? Some sort of emerge threat? Okay. All right.
Is this the distended Mindbender?
Yep, he's got the Mindbender. Okay. I was like, what is going on? I guess we got to get used to creatures being sacrificed for value here. So there is the Mindbender. It's emerged. And it does its thing. 5/5 out there against the Drowner. Not bad.
Yep. Also got the other Drowner out of the hand, so now Kenny's empty-handed.
Yep.
Not bad.
Kenny's going to sacrifice Hedron Archive, draw 2 cards. So 3 brand new cards here for Mike this turn. There's an island. That'll be Kenny's land for the turn. But it's interesting. You saw what Kenney was setting up, and now things have changed.
Well, if he wants to, he can still get in for 11 this turn. But he would risk losing the Chandra on the way back, and then left to Drowner. And with McDuffie having the Crop Sigil in play, he can easily get back a blocker. So that line of play doesn't really work.
It's very true. And actually, you saw McDuffie fan out the graveyard at Mike's request because Mike wants to know what can you actually get back with the Crop Sigil. Mike is going to sacrifice the Scion, tap down the Mindbender, plus the Chandra. You said attacking for 11 might be okay this turn. That's exactly what Mike is going to do.
Depends what Kenney picked up off of the Hedron Archive activation. If he feels like he can finish off the game, then that's fine. But remember, McDuffie's going to be able to sacrifice the Crop Sigil, get another big blocker back, like Ishkana, for example.
Yep.
Make another wave of spiders. Use the Descendant Mindbender to kill Chandra, and then it's Drowner against a full board. So I don't know where Kenney is going to get the last 3 points from, but to justify this line of play, I think he has to believe that he has it lined up somehow.
Crop Sigil will be sacrificed. We'll see what Korey wants to get back. He's at least thinking Swamp. And he's kind of thumbing at that Ishkana.
It's a lot of blocking.
Decisions here for McDuffie. Because he is in some trouble. Hangerback Walker. Maybe a little surprising there.
A little bit. I'm interested to see what justifies this line of play. I think that Kenney's play is so aggressive that McDuffie has to believe that he has Ishkana beat somehow. Hangerback Walker may allow him a better route to beat the Kozilek's return in the graveyard because he still gets some chump blockers on the way back, even if Kenny's able to fire off the Kozilek's return in the graveyard.
Chandra down, thanks to the Mindbender. There's a Swamp.
It is much lower impact than the Ishkana for sure.
Yeah.
But if McDuffie believes that Kenney has to have a way to beat the Ishkana, probably involves the Kozilek's return, that this is a safer route to protect himself from that outcome.
The draw for the turn for McDuffie was actually Den Protector, so he's going to cast a Morph here. Maybe.
Well, once you've gone down the route of getting the Hangerback Walker to I'm assuming to protect yourself from getting killed, you kind of have to cast it this turn because Den Protector does not save you from getting killed if you think Kenney can beat a single blocker or a single wave of blockers.
So here's Hangerback Walker with just one. McDuffie's going to play a Morph. We know that's the Den Protector. Kenney doesn't know that, but he's a pretty smart guy. He might be able to figure that out. What do we have here? Kozilek's return. That's a really good Magic card. McDuffie is going to unmorph Den Protector. Doesn't look like there's a Death Mist Raptor down there. Okay, so what Mike is doing, Mike is saying, okay, I'm going to Kozilek's return, kill your stuff, and then I'm going to activate my spawning pool, make Scions, use Drowner to tap something, and then kill you. And that's exactly what he is going to do. So Mike Kenney is going to win this match over Korey McDuffie, 2-0. Blue-Red Eldrazi will take care of Green-Black Delirium in its debut here on the SCG Tour. Unfortunately for Korey, I think